Since National Best Friends Day is coming up on June 8th, I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to share some great picture books all about friendship. Now, I have a wide variety of books to share with you today, but they all have to do with being friends and making friends and what friendship means. And each one of these picture books makes an awesome read aloud for you to share in your classroom. And I know we're getting into summer now, so make sure you save this list for next year, especially when you start to see those friendship issues creeping up in your classroom, because we all know that happens as the year goes on. But let's jump right into those books. The first book that I have is called The Sandwich Swap. Ooh, that's a mouthful. Lily and Selma are best friends and they love all of the same things. They like to jump rope and play and do all these things together, but there's one thing they don't agree on, and that's lunch. Lily always has a peanut butter sandwich and Selma always has a hummus sandwich. One day, the girls share with each other that they think the other person has really yucky food. Not only does this turn into a fight between the two girls, but it turns into an actual food fight in the cafeteria. Well, that lands them both in the principal's office, and while they're there, they realize that they need to learn to appreciate each other. And they decide to share their sandwiches with the other and realize the other person's sandwich is not so bad after all. This even leads the girls into creating a luncheon for the whole school where they all try different types of food from around the world. A great story about friendship and how friends do have fights sometimes, and they don't always have to like all of the same things. It's okay if they like different things. But the important part is to be kind to one another, to share with each other, and to get to know the other person, even if it's a little bit different than themselves. A great story about friendship to share with the students in your classroom. This next book that I have is a fairly new book. This one is called Words to Make a Friend. And it has very limited words in the book, and the story is really told through the illustrations as well. But it's a joyful story about two girls who don't speak the same language, but they bond over their shared love of snow. And slowly they become friends as they share things with each other. And each word in the book is written in both English and Japanese. So your students will not only understand what it means to be a friend or how to move past that language barrier to include others and to be kind to them, but they'll also learn a different language as well. A great story to share with your students about not just becoming friends with those who are similar to you, but reaching out to others and learning all about them as well. And you'll never know until you ask what things you have in common. This next book is a sweet story. This one is called The Someone New. In this story, Jitterbug is a chipmunk and she doesn't really like change. And so one morning she wakes up and she feels like something is different and she can't quite put her finger on it. What is different? And she goes in search of the something different, and along the way she meets with her friends and talks with them. Then she realizes that there's a new animal in town. There is a snail that has joined their community because his got washed out during a flood. Jitterbug is taken aback. She does not like change. She does not like things that are new, and she sends this snail away. And then her friends make her realize that she needs to include others, that the snail is far away from his home and his friends, and that she needs to welcome him, that she needs to be brave, that change, even though it can be scary, can lead to good things. And Jitterbug realizes the error of her ways, and she goes after the snail and welcomes him into their community. This is a good story to share with students, to talk about how it can be scary to make new friends. It can be scary to reach out to others, but how it makes such an important difference to that other person. How it feels to make them feel welcome. A great book to read, especially at the beginning of the year in your classroom. This next book that I have about friendship talks more about what it means to be a friend. This one is called A Friend Like You, and it talks about how you'll meet many people in your life. Some people you'll only meet once, some you'll meet once or twice, and others will become really good friends of yours. and that there are different types of friends. Some that you see often, some that you don't see quite as much, but they're still friends. And there are many ways to be a good friend. You need to be accepting and open-minded. You need to be flexible. You need to be thoughtful. And throughout the pages of this book, it goes through many of the different aspects of being a friend and what to look for in a friend and how you need to act in order to be a friend to somebody else. This is a great reminder for your students, especially during those times when you're noticing that friendships in your classroom are not going quite so well. This is a good one to pull out, a good reminder for students of how they need to act and what they need to look for in other people to become friends. A great story for Best Friends Day in June. Now, these next three I know I've shared on here before, and each one of these I have a interactive read aloud lesson to go along with them. I'll leave links to all of them in the description box down below so that you can grab the lesson to use as a read aloud in your classroom. This first one is one of my favorites. This is The Invisible Boy. And in this story, Brian is invisible. He's this quiet, gentle child in the classroom, and so much so that the other students don't really notice him. Even the teacher doesn't notice him. And as it goes on, he just sits in the back and watches all the other kids play and talk about the birthday parties that they got invited to, but he didn't. And one day there's a new student in the class, and Brian stands up for this student when others are teasing him. And this student reaches out to Brian and starts to include him, and the two of them become friends. And at the beginning of the story, Brian is drawn in black and white. And as this other child starts to include him and play with him and talk with him, the color starts to return to Brian, and he is no longer invisible. A powerful, powerful story about including others and reaching out and making new friends. The next book that I have is a fun one. This one is called Enemy Pie. In this book, the young boy is so excited for summer until Jeremy Ross moves into the neighborhood, and he decides that Jeremy is his enemy. And he will do anything to not be near Jeremy. Well, his dad says, you know what? To get rid of enemies, we need to bake him an enemy pie. But there's something you need to do. So he tells his son that in order for this pie to work, to get rid of this enemy, he needs to spend the whole day with his enemy and get to know him. Well, he starts playing with this boy and he realizes they actually have a lot of fun together. They like doing a lot of the same things. They really enjoy their day together. And when it comes time to eat the enemy pie, he says, no, I don't want you to eat it. We're friends now. And then he realizes there's not actually anything wrong with the pie. And maybe Dad had a trick up his sleeve and helped him turn this other boy into his friend instead of his enemy. An important story about how we need to get to know one another before we judge them, before we decide that they are an enemy and not a friend. And it's important to spend time with others in order to make friends. And this last one is called Misha Makes Friends. In this story, Misha has a hard time making friends. She likes to make crafts and she likes to make up games and stories, but she has a hard time when it comes to making friends with other kids. And her parents help her along and encourage her to meet other kids. And she and another boy kind of meet up in the corner. He has a bit of a hard time making friends as well. And the two of them realize that just by talking to each other, they can become friends. Another powerful story about how making friends isn't always easy, and it doesn't come easily to everybody. It's a great reminder for students, especially those students who are more outgoing, and to help them encourage other students to come and play with them, even the shy ones. So I hope this list of friendship books will be great for you to use in your classroom, whether at the beginning of the year or any other time of the school year, to help your students make friends, to keep friends, and to include others. Such an important thing to share with your students. If this video is helpful, make sure you give it a thumbs up and hit that red subscribe button, because I'll be back next week with more read aloud tips and book ideas that you can use in your classroom right away. Have a great week.